Hello again, everyone, and welcome to my channel, The Gentleman Reviewer. If you have not done so yet, I would hugely appreciate if you'd subscribe to my channel, which you can do so by hitting that subscribe button right down there. I would greatly appreciate any kind of support that you can offer my blog, even if it's just simply going and clicking that link. I understand that's the most that most people can do. It's the most that I can typically do to support the blogs that I like, but it means a lot to people like me who are doing this. So this week I have a really cool pen for you all to review. This is the Narwhal fountain pen. It was released back in 2019. I saw a couple different places about where it was released, but as far as I can find, it was released at the DC Pen Show back in 2019, just before I attended the Colorado Pen Show that year. So my the reason I purchased this one is I was having a really hard time deciding on what I wanted to purchase. As I've said before in some of my reviews, I have a really small budget for this blog, and I really wanted to make the money that I had go as far as I possibly could. So I found this pen. It was new at the time, never heard of it before, just been released that year, as I learned talking to the vendor, and I decided to give it a shot. It was 45 bucks, so it falls right in that domain where a pen can really be hit or miss. You know, like the Lamy Safari is a pretty solid pen for about $30. Sometimes there's problems with quality control, but when you jump into like my Schaefer VFM, for example, I hate that pen. I really don't like it. It was one of my least favorite pens in my collection, and one that I never use at this point. Some people really liked it, but you know, it falls right around that price range. So I was really hoping that this one would not be a miss. One of my worries is that with the acrylic bodies, that tends to add a higher cost, as far as I've seen, just in my own observations. No actual scientific research there. But I was really worried that with how pretty it looked, the type of hardware it had on it, and its giant number 6 nib, that it just wouldn't work, or that it just wouldn't be a very good investment. But thankfully, I was surprised at how well it turned out. So let's dive in a little bit. So at the time that I purchased this pen, the Narwhal fountain pens were only available in 4 colors. This one is Poseidon blue. There's also a yellow tang, a merman green, and a hippocampus purple. Naturally, I had to go with blue. Blue is my favorite color. I mean, like, look, I've got my blue Lamy Safari, the petrol blue. If I look in here, I have one blue pen in there, my Arrow, but the other ones, that one has blue ink in it, that one has blue ink in it, and I think that one has a gray, now that I think about it. So blue ink, blue pens are my favorite. Now they have a few more colors that you'll want to check out. Gold Spot Pens, I think, is the retailer that has most of them. If you want to check them out, and let them know I sent you over there. So start off with the Narwhal Fence specifications. Let's stop drilling over the acrylic and how much I liked it and how much I like how it looks, and was really worried that it just wouldn't perform well. So it's a piston filler. I already have ink in it now, so I'm not going to actually use the mechanism, but it's a piston filler, which means you're going to screw this or unscrew this, and it's going to push the piston down. You're going to put it in an ink bottle. I usually submerge it in the ink bottle while I'm getting the air out of it, and then you're going to fill it back up. So the nice thing about this, since I have the Lamy Safari here, let's just pull this out. With the converter, you have a whole extra layer of plastic that you have to add on to that is obviously going to take up space that could otherwise be used for ink. So these have much more ink capacity in them. I couldn't find the exact measurements for how much ink this one held, but it's definitely a lot more than it would be if it had a converter in it. The downside is they're a little bit harder to clean. With a TWSBI, there's a little wrench that you can use to unscrew it and pull it out. I don't know how to do that with the Narwhal pens, is the downside. So the cap on this thing is also gargantuan, but look how pretty that thing is sparkling in the light that I have for this. I love it. I'm just drooling over it. So with how big the cap is, I mean, it's a good, almost probably over a third, not quite half the length of the body. So you can post it, but posting it, you're gonna have a massive pen while you're writing. And there's a finial right here at the back a metal cap finial. That's really going to put that weight near the back of the pen and make it really uncomfortable to write with. So not something I would do, not something I would recommend doing, but very simple clip. There's 2 silver rings, one that separates the plunger mechanism and one that separates the grip and the, sorry, what are they called? The threads from the rest of the body. So the grip itself, very, very standard grip. Again, I really like that close-up of the acrylic. It's very pretty. Nothing too fancy about the grip. You know, it's just nice and concave, so you can grab it well enough. I have some stats that I can give you for how big the grip and the body are, but I don't have those in front of me right now. So let's start let's start talking about the nib itself. So these are made in-house by Narwhal. You can see right at the bottom, closest to the grip, it says Narwhal. There's a really cool Narwhal right in the middle above that. I forget what it's called right now. The hole, I think it's called a breather hole. I could be wrong. And some really nice engraving around the sides that just really adds a lot of just really good looks to the pen. I really enjoy the overall appearance of this pen. So the ink flow on the nib, it's always been pretty good, really decent. I would say it's much more on the wet side. At this time, even now, a year later, they're only available in fine, which probably, I would argue, falls closer to a Western medium. It's pretty thick. Let's see. Let's get towards the back here and I'll do a little bit of a writing sample for you all. This is my Listallion journal, and let's do just a quick Narwhal fountain pen. Narwhal pen. So there's a little bit of feedback that I can feel from the pen. Let's do a Lamy 2000 as well, since that's one of the more common ones. I tried to twist it open because I'm just used to twist pens right now. So you can see this is a German fine. This is a Lamy 2000 in a fine nib. And you can see, I'll get you a little bit closer, that, you know, the Narwhal pen is a little bit thicker, at least on the overlaps and especially on the downstrokes. So it does fall a little bit closer to that medium size nib, but it's so smooth and it's got such a good flow of ink. I've never had this pen dry out on me. You can see it just started up right there even after I had it open for a little bit. I didn't have it open for very long, showing you the nib, but the nib is smooth. It's not quite as good as a gold nib, but it's awesome. Like, it feels so smooth straight out of the box. I haven't done anything to this pen. I'm not comfortable doing anything to these pens, but you know, so little feedback while you're writing. It just feels like you're writing on a cloud. Ink flow is amazing, which is great because it's a very wet writer. So I mentioned I had those measurements and I got down to them in my notes. So overall, the Narwhal fountain pen is about 5.71 inches while closed, or 145 millimeters. Without the cap, it's 5.16 inches, or 131 millimeters. When you post it, it comes into a whopping 6.97, or 177 millimeters. So almost 7 inches of pen that you're dealing with while you're writing. It's a pain. The grip is 0.35 or 11 millimeters in diameter, and the body measures 0.51 inches or 13 millimeters, which gives it a nice slight taper. So overall, I've really enjoyed using this pen. I think the biggest downside is that it's only available in a medium. A fine. It just writes like a medium. I personally really like a fine to a medium. It's my preferred size. I almost always purchase something in a fine. Sometimes I'll go to a medium. I've moved away from extra fine lately. But I think that limit really limits how much people will enjoy it and how many different kinds of people will purchase it. You definitely have the people who likes their bolds or broads, and you have people like me who like their fines, so it's great for me. Right now it's still running about $45. Gold Spot has a few options available from the other forum, so if you get over there from me, let them know that I sent you over there. And thanks again for watching. I really appreciate you watching this video, and I hope you like this pen as much as I did. Just look at how pretty that is. We'll end on that note with just how pretty it's looking in that light.